The massive Vorthak warship moved through space like a dark shadow. Its metal hull was covered in weapons that could destroy entire cities. Inside the command center, Commander Thyrix Veltar looked at the screen in front of him. His 6 eyes focused on a small ship that floated nearby. "What is that thing?" Thyrix asked. His voice was deep and scary. The other warriors on the bridge turned to look at the strange vessel. "It appears to be from the Deathworld Sol 3, Commander," said Sub-Commander Zephys Cordon. He was checking his computer readings. "The planet the Council told us never to visit." Thyrix made a sound like laughing, but it was not friendly. "A Deathworld ship? How did something so weak get this far into space?" He looked at the small human vessel again. It was tiny compared to his warship. "Scan it for weapons." The ship's computer beeped. "No major weapons detected, Commander. The vessel appears to be a survey ship." "Survey ship?" Thyrix stood up from his chair. He was very tall, almost 8 feet high. His skin was gray and hard like stone. "What kind of survey ship travels this far from home?" Zephys checked his readings again. "Commander, there are only 5 life forms on that ship. The scans show they are from Sol 3. They are humans." All the warriors on the bridge became quiet. They had heard stories about humans and their terrible death world, but the stories said humans were dangerous and violent. This little ship looked like it could barely fight off a space bug. 5 humans, Thyrix said slowly. 5 humans on a tiny ship, far from their world. He smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "This will be easy. We will board their ship and take them prisoner. The Council will want to study Deathworld creatures." He turned to his warriors. "Prepare the boarding party. 12 of our best fighters should be enough for 5 weak creatures." The warriors nodded and started getting ready. They put on their battle armor and checked their weapons. Each Vorthak warrior was trained to fight entire armies. They had conquered many worlds and defeated thousands of enemies. 5 humans would be no problem at all. Thyrix walked to the weapon room and put on his own armor. It was black and covered in sharp spikes. His helmet had a visor that could see in the dark and through walls. He picked up his energy rifle, which could burn through thick metal walls. "Commander," Zephys called from the bridge, "the human ship is not trying to run away. They are just sitting there." "Of course they are not running," Thyrix said. "They know they cannot escape. They are probably scared and waiting to surrender." But this was strange. Most species tried to run when they saw a Vorthak warship. Even the brave ones at least pointed their weapons at them. These humans were doing nothing. Thyrix and his 12 warriors got into their boarding ship. It was fast and had thick armor. They flew across the space between the 2 ships and attached to the human vessel's airlock. "Cutting through their door now," said warrior Nyx Temar. She was using a plasma cutter to burn through the metal. "Be ready," Thyrix told his warriors. "When we get inside, surround them quickly. Do not let them move." The door melted away and the Vorthak warriors rushed inside. They expected to see scared humans hiding behind furniture or crying for help. Instead, they found 5 humans standing calmly in the main hallway. They looked relaxed. One of the humans stepped forward. He was not very tall, maybe 6 feet. He had black hair and was wearing a simple blue uniform. He was smiling. "Hello there," the human said in perfect galactic standard language. "I'm Captain Hyunwoo Kim. Welcome to our ship." Thyrix was confused. This human was not scared at all. He was acting like the Vorthak warriors were friends who came to visit. "You will surrender immediately," Thyrix said, pointing his energy rifle at the human captain. "You are now prisoners of the Vorthak Dominion." Hyunwoo looked at the big weapon, pointed at his chest. Then he looked at the 12 armored warriors surrounding him and his crew. He nodded politely. "I understand you're probably just doing your job," Hyunwoo said. "But we're on a peaceful mission here. We're just doing some surveys and research, nothing dangerous." Behind him, the other 4 humans seemed just as calm. A woman with short hair was even smiling a little. A younger man was looking at the Vorthak armor with interest, like he wanted to know how it was made. "You do not seem to understand," Thyrix said louder. "We are Vorthak warriors. We have conquered 100 worlds. You are from a death world, but there are only 5 of you. You cannot fight us. Fight you? Hyunwoo looked surprised. Why would we want to fight? We're just here to have a good time and do some science work, Zephys whispered to Therix through their helmet communicators. Commander, these humans are acting very strange. Most species are terrified of us by now. Therix was thinking the same thing. Usually when they boarded enemy ships, there was screaming and running and begging. These humans looked like they were having a normal conversation. What is your mission here? Therix demanded. Oh, just a recreational survey trip, said the woman with short hair. I'm Engineer Boram Lee, by the way. We're studying some interesting space rocks in this area. It's pretty fun work. Recreational? Therix did not know this word. You know, for fun, said another human, a man with spiky hair. I'm Pilot Taejin Park. We do this kind of trip when we want to relax and enjoy ourselves. The Vorthak warriors looked at each other. These humans came all this way from their death world just for fun? That made no sense. Death world creatures were supposed to be always fighting just to stay alive. Perhaps, Hyunwoo said with a friendly smile, you would like to see what we do for entertainment during long space trips? We have some free time right now, and we were just about to start our daily recreational activities. Therix felt like something was wrong, but he could not figure out what. These humans were too calm, too friendly. It was like they did not understand how much danger they were in, but what could 5 weak creatures do against 12 Vorthak warriors? Even if it was some kind of trap, they had enough firepower to handle anything. Show us, Therix said. Maybe if he saw how these death world creatures spent their time, he would understand them better. The council would want a complete report. Hyunwoo's smile got bigger. Great. Boram, could you set up the cargo bay? We should show our new friends what human recreation looks like. As the humans started moving toward the back of their ship, Therix followed with his warriors. He kept his weapon ready, but the humans did not seem worried about it at all. What he did not know was that he was about to see something that would change how he thought about humans forever. Something that would make him understand why their world was called a death world, and something that would make him and his warriors question everything they thought they knew about what it meant to be strong. The cargo bay of the human ship was bigger than Therix expected. The walls were made of strong metal, and there were strange bars and ropes hanging from the ceiling. The floor had thick mats in some places and was hard metal in others. Boram walked to a wall panel and started pressing buttons. Let me just adjust the gravity settings, she said cheerfully. We usually keep it at low comfort mode when we're not exercising. Gravity settings? Zephys whispered to Therix. Commander, our scans show this ship's gravity is already at 0.8 standard. That's higher than most species can handle. Therix nodded but said nothing. He watched as Boram finished with the controls. There we go, she said. Still keeping it light since we have guests. Don't want anyone getting hurt. The 5 humans spread out across the cargo bay. Hyunwoo rolled his shoulders and stretched, his arms above his head. The movement looked normal, but when his joints popped, the sound was like breaking wood. So, what should we start with? Asked So-Young Choi, the medic. She was a small woman, maybe 5.5 feet tall. She looked like she weighed less than a Vorthak child. Maybe some basic parkour to warm up? Good idea, said Taejin. He walked over to one wall and looked up at the bars hanging from the ceiling. They were about 10 feet high. I'll go first. What happened next made every Vorthak warrior take a step backward. Taejin ran toward the wall at full speed. When he reached it, he jumped up and pushed off with his feet. He flew through the air and grabbed one of the hanging bars. But he did not stop there. He swung forward and let go, flying even higher to catch another bar. Then he swung back and forth, going faster and faster. Nice form, called Hyunwoo. Try the wall bounce sequence. Taejin swung toward a wall and kicked off it hard. The sound of his feet hitting the metal wall was like a hammer hitting stone. He flew across the entire cargo bay and caught a bar on the opposite side. Then he let go and did 3 flips in the air before landing on his feet. The landing made the metal floor ring like a bell. Warrior Nyx Temar made a choking sound inside her helmet. Commander, she whispered, did you see how high he jumped? And the speed? Thyrex was watching with all 6 eyes. The human had moved like he was flying. The jumps and flips looked impossible. No creature should be able to move that fast or jump that high without mechanical help. "Your turn, Boram," Taejin said. He was not even breathing hard. Boram walked to a different part of the bay where thick ropes hung from the ceiling. She grabbed one rope in each hand and pulled herself up, but she did not climb normally. She pulled herself up using only her arms, hand over hand, moving up the ropes like they weighed nothing. When she reached the top, about 15 feet up, she let go of the ropes. Every Vorthak warrior raised their weapons, thinking she was falling to her death. But Boram grabbed a metal beam on the ceiling and swung across to another rope. She did this again and again, swinging from rope to rope across the ceiling like some kind of flying creature. "Show off," laughed Wu Jin Han, the communications officer. "You're going to make our guests think all humans can do that. Can't they?" Boram called from the ceiling. "Well, yes," Wu Jin admitted, "but you make it look easy." Boram swung down from the ceiling and landed next to the Vorthak warriors. The impact of her landing made the floor shake a little. Zephys checked his armor's sensors. "Commander, the readings I'm getting from these humans, their bone density is impossible. Their muscle mass readings don't make sense." "Equipment malfunction," Thyrex said quickly, but he was starting to feel worried. So Young walked to another area of the cargo bay where there was a tall metal wall with small handholds. It looked like a climbing wall, but it went straight up with no angle to make it easier. "I'll do some basic wall climbing," she said. "Nothing fancy." She grabbed the small metal handholds and started climbing straight up the wall. Her fingers gripped the tiny metal pieces like they were made of glue. She moved up quickly, pulling her body weight like it was nothing. But then she did something that made Warrior Kex Vorum drop his weapon. When So Young reached the top of the wall, she let go with her hands and feet. For a moment, she was hanging in the air 20 feet above the metal floor. Then she twisted her body and grabbed the wall again, but now she was hanging upside down. She started climbing across the ceiling, moving from handhold to handhold while hanging upside down. Her long black hair hung down toward the floor, but she moved like gravity was not affecting her at all. "The grip strength readings are off our sensors," Zephys reported in a shaking voice. "Commander, her fingers are gripping those metal handholds with enough force to crush stone." "That's not possible," Thyrex said, but he was watching So Young climb across the ceiling like a spider, and he could not explain what he was seeing. Wu Jin walked to another area where there were round metal targets on the walls. He picked up some objects from a box. They looked like small metal balls, but when he threw one at a target, it hit with a sound like thunder. The metal ball buried itself halfway into the target. "Bullseye," Wu Jin said happily. He threw another ball at a different target, then another. Each throw was perfect, hitting the exact center of each target. Each metal ball buried itself deep into what looked like very thick metal. The throwing. "Velocity is impossible," whispered Nyx. "Those projectiles are moving faster than our armor can track." "And the accuracy," added Zephys. "He's hitting targets while barely looking at them." Hyunwoo was doing something that looked like dancing, but it was not like any dance the Vorthak had ever seen. He was moving his body in ways that should not be possible. He bent backward until his head was touching the floor behind him. Then he twisted and spun and jumped, all while staying balanced on one foot. "Just some basic flexibility and balance. Work," Hyunwoo explained to the staring aliens. "We try to stay limber during long space trips." The Vorthak warriors watched as the human captain continued his basic movements. He jumped high into the air, spun 3 times, and landed in a position where he was balanced on his hands with his feet pointing at the ceiling. He held this position while having a normal conversation. "This is all very light exercise," Boram called from where she was now hanging from the ceiling by her fingertips. "We don't want to work up too much of a sweat before dinner." "Light exercise?" Nyx repeated quietly. So Young dropped from the ceiling and landed perfectly on her feet. The impact made the floor ring again, but she looked like she had just stepped off a chair. "Should we show them some of the coordination drills?" Taejin asked. "Oh, that's a great idea," So Young said. She and Taejin walked to the center of the bay. Want to try the reaction training? Sure, Tae-jin said. So-young picked up one of the metal balls that Woo-jin had been throwing. Without any warning, she threw it at Tae-jin's head as hard as she could. Every Vorthak warrior raised their weapons, thinking they were about to watch a murder. But Tae-jin's hand moved faster than their eyes could follow. He caught the metal ball just inches from his face, then still smiling, he threw it back at So-young. She caught it just as easily and threw it at his stomach. He caught that too. They started throwing the heavy metal ball back and forth faster and faster. Soon it was moving so fast that the Vorthak warriors could only see a blur. But both humans caught it every time while laughing and talking about other things. My turn, called Bo-ram. She swung down from the ceiling and joined the game. Now there were 3 humans throwing the metal ball in a triangle pattern, each throw coming faster and harder than the last. The sound of the ball hitting their hands was like hammers hitting stone, but none of the humans seemed to feel any pain. This is impossible, Kex whispered. No creature has reflexes that fast. No hands are strong enough to catch projectiles moving at that speed. Thyrix was watching the humans play their games and feeling something he had never felt before in his life. Fear. These were not weak creatures from a primitive world. These were something else entirely. Something that called this level of physical ability light exercise and warming up. And according to them, they were just getting started. Hyunwoo noticed that their alien visitors had become very quiet. Most of them were standing near the door and their weapons were shaking in their hands. Are you okay? Hyunwoo asked Thyrix with genuine concern. You all look a little pale. Well, more pale than usual. Thyrix tried to speak but only made a strange choking sound. He had fought in 1,000 battles across the galaxy. He had seen warriors who could tear through metal walls and beasts that could eat starships, but he had never seen anything like these humans. Maybe we should step it up a little, Bo-ram suggested. They seemed bored with the warm-up exercises. Good idea, said Tae-jin. Should we get the contact training equipment? Oh yes, So-young said excitedly. I've been wanting to practice my grappling techniques. The humans walked to another part of the cargo bay and opened some large boxes. Inside were thick padded mats, protective gear, and what looked like weapons. What is contact training? Zephys asked in a voice that was trying to sound brave. It's when we practice fighting each other, Woo-jin explained cheerfully. You know, hand-to-hand combat, wrestling, sparring. It's great exercise and really fun. Every Vorthak warrior took another step backward. Fighting each other? Nyx repeated. For fun? Sure, Bo-ram said as she strapped protective padding to her arms and legs. How else would we stay sharp? Plus, it's a great way to pass time during long trips. Tae-jin was putting on similar padding. Want to go first, Bo-ram? I'll try not to throw you too hard. Ha, Bo-ram laughed. We'll see who throws who. The 2 humans walked to the center of the padded area and faced each other. They both smiled and bowed politely. Then, without any warning, they attacked. What followed was the most violent thing the Vorthak warriors had ever seen. Bo-ram and Tae-jin moved faster than the aliens' eyes could follow. They punched and kicked and grabbed each other with tremendous force. The sound of their hands and feet hitting each other was like rocks being smashed together. But the terrifying part was not how hard they hit each other. It was how they reacted to being hit. When Bo-ram punched Tae-jin in the chest, the sound was like thunder. The blow should have broken his ribs and stopped his heart. Instead, he smiled and complimented her technique. When Tae-jin grabbed Bo-ram and threw her across the room, she should have been knocked unconscious when she hit the wall. Instead, she bounced off the metal wall, landed on her feet, and immediately ran back to attack him again. Nice throw, she called out happily. But you telegraphed it a little with your shoulder. They continued fighting with increasing intensity. Bo-ram picked up Tae-jin and slammed him into the floor hard enough to make the entire ship shake. Tae-jin swept her legs and sent her flying into the ceiling. She hit the metal ceiling with a crash that sounded like an explosion, then dropped. Back down and kept fighting. Both humans were laughing. Commander, Kex whispered through the communication system. Are we watching them try to kill each other? I don't think so, Thyrix whispered back. I think this is what they call playing. The fight continued for several minutes. Both humans took hits that should have killed them dozens of times, but they kept getting back up and attacking each other with even more enthusiasm. Finally, Boram managed to grab Tae-jin in some kind of wrestling hold and threw him to the ground. She pinned him there with her knee on his chest. "I win," she said, breathing only slightly harder than normal. "Good match," Tae-jin said from underneath her. "Your ground game is getting better." They both stood up and shook hands. Neither of them looked seriously injured, even though they had been beating each other with enough force to destroy buildings. "Who wants to go next?" Boram asked. "I'll try," said So-young. She started putting on the protective padding. While she was getting ready, Woo-jin walked to another area of the cargo bay. He opened a box and pulled out what looked like sharp metal knives. Every Vorthak weapon immediately pointed at him. "Whoa, easy there," Hyunwoo said to the aliens. "He's just going to practice his knife throwing. It's perfectly safe." "Safe?" Nix asked. "Those are blades." "Well, yes," Woo-jin said, confused by the question. "How else would you practice knife throwing?" He walked to the other end of the cargo bay and stood about 30 feet away from the targets. Then he closed his eyes. "Blindfolded throwing practice," he explained. "It helps improve your other senses." Without opening his eyes, Woo-jin threw the first knife. It flew through the air faster than a bullet and buried itself in the exact center of the target. He threw a second knife. Perfect center of another. Target a third knife. Another perfect hit. He threw all 6 knives one after another without opening his eyes once. Each knife hit the exact center of a different target. The metal blades were buried so deep in the targets that only their handles were visible. "Not bad," Woo-jin said, opening his eyes to check his work. "My aim is getting better." Meanwhile, So-young and Hyunwoo had started their own sparring match. But their fighting style was different from Boram and Tae-jin. They were using their feet more, kicking at each other with devastating force. So-young jumped into the air and spun around, kicking at Hyunwoo's head with both feet. The captain ducked under the attack and swept her legs as she landed. She jumped over his leg sweep and punched downward at his head. Hyunwoo blocked her punch with both arms, but the impact sent him sliding backward across the metal floor. His feet left scratches in the metal. "Your kicks are getting stronger," he said approvingly. "Thanks," So-young said. "I've been working on my leg strength." She jumped up and kicked the metal wall behind her. Her foot left a dent in the thick metal. She used the force of the kick to launch herself at Hyunwoo like a missile. The captain caught her in midair and spun around, using her own momentum to throw her at the opposite wall. So-young twisted in the air, hit the wall with her feet, and pushed off to attack him again. They moved around the cargo bay like they were flying. They jumped off walls, flipped through the air, and hit each other with blows that shook the entire ship. And through it all, they were having a friendly conversation about technique and strategy. "Try varying your attack patterns more," Hyunwoo suggested as he threw So-young into the ceiling. "Good point," So-young called back as she bounced off the ceiling and landed in a combat crouch. "I was getting predictable." Nyx Temar was hyperventilating inside her armor. Her breathing system was working overtime, trying to keep her calm. "Commander," she gasped. "What are they?" "They're humans," Thyrix said quietly. But he was beginning to understand that the word human meant something very different from what he had thought. The sparring match between So-young and Hyunwoo ended when the captain managed to pin the medic to the floor in a wrestling hold. "Good fight," So-young said as she stood up. "Your grappling defense has improved a lot." "Thanks," Hyunwoo said. "Your speed is incredible. I could barely keep up." Both humans looked like they had just finished a light jog, not a fight that should have killed them both several times over. "Should we show them some of our equipment training?" Boram suggested. "Equipment training?" Zephys asked weakly. "You know," Tae-jin said, walking to another set of boxes. "Weightlifting, resistance, training, strength-building exercises." He opened a box and pulled out what looked like a metal bar with heavy weights attached to each end. "This is pretty light," Tae-jin said, looking at the weight bar. "Only about 300 pounds. Good for warming up." 300 pounds was more than most Vorthak warriors could lift even with mechanical assistance. Taijin laid down on a bench and started lifting the weight bar up and down above his chest. He did this 20 times without any sign of effort. "Your turn, Wu Jin," he said, sitting up. Wu Jin took the bar and added more weights to it. "Let's try 500 pounds, he said casually. He lifted the enormously heavy bar above his head, with both arms, then did it again, and again. The Vorthak warriors watched in horror as each human took turns lifting weights that should have been impossible for any living creature to move. But the worst part was still how casual they were about it. They talked and laughed while doing things that defied everything the aliens knew about physics and biology. "This is good," Boram said as she lifted a weight bar that had to weigh over 600 pounds. "But I think our guests might want to see some of our real training equipment." "Real training equipment?" Therix whispered. The humans all looked at each other and smiled. Therix was no longer pretending to be in control. His weapon hung loose in his hands and his 6 eyes were wide with terror. Around him, his elite warriors were backing toward the exit of the cargo bay. Some of them were making quiet whimpering sounds inside their helmets. Hyunwoo noticed how scared the aliens looked and felt bad about it. "Hey, are you guys okay?" he asked with genuine worry. "You look really upset. Did we do something wrong?" We don't understand," Therix managed to say. His voice was shaking. "What are you?" "What do you mean?" Boram asked, tilting her head. "We're humans, from Earth. Sol 3, as you probably call it." "But the things you're doing," Zephys said, "they're impossible. No living creature can survive what we just watched." The 5 humans looked at each other, with confusion. "Survive what?" So Young asked. "We were just doing our regular daily exercises. This is pretty normal stuff for us." "Normal?" Nyx repeated. "You were trying to kill each other." "Kill each other?" Tae-Jin looked shocked. "No, we were just playing around. That was very light sparring. We weren't even trying to hurt each other." "Light sparring?" Kex's voice was so high it squeaked. "You threw her into the wall hard enough to break the metal." "Well, yes," Boram said, "but it wasn't a very hard throw. And these walls are pretty soft anyway." She walked over to the wall and knocked on it with her knuckles. The sound was like hammers hitting stone. "See? This is just basic ship-grade titanium steel. Nothing too tough." She casually punched the wall with her fist. Her hand went through the metal like it was made of paper, leaving a perfect hole. "Oops," she said, looking at the hole. "Sorry about that, Hyunwoo. I'll fix it later." "No problem," the captain said. "Happens all the time." "Happens all the time?" Therix whispered. Hyunwoo seemed to realize that the aliens were genuinely confused and scared. His expression became more serious and helpful. "Oh, I think I understand the problem," he said kindly. "You don't know much about humans, do you? The Galactic Council classified your world as a forbidden death world," Zephys said. "We were told never to go there." "Yeah, that makes sense," Wu Jin said. "Earth is pretty dangerous if you're not used to it." "Dangerous how?" Thyrex asked. So Young sat down cross-legged on the floor and started explaining like she was talking to children. "Well, first there's the gravity," she said. "Earth gravity is about 2.3 times stronger than what most space-traveling species consider normal. We've been living under that pressure our whole lives, so our bones and muscles developed to handle force are 2-3 times normal gravity," Nick said weakly. "Yeah, and this ship is set to what we call low comfort mode," Hyunwoo added. "We're only running 0.8 Earth gravity right now so we can relax during the trip." "This is you relaxing?" Kex asked. "Oh yes," Boram said cheerfully. "If we were on Earth, everything we just did would be about 3 times harder." The Vorthak warriors looked at each other in horror. What they had just witnessed was the humans, holding back and taking it easy. "Then there's the wildlife," Tae-Jin continued the explanation. "Earth has lots of creatures that like to eat humans. Big cats, bears, sharks, venomous snakes, poisonous spiders. We had to get tough just to survive childhood." "Everything on your world tries to kill you?" Zephys asked. "Well, not everything," So Young said thoughtfully. Maybe only about 60% of it. The rest just wants to hurt us really badly. Even our plants are dangerous, Wu Jin added. Some of them have thorns that can go through thick leather. Others are poisonous to touch. A few of them actually try to grab you. Plants that attack people? Nix was having trouble breathing. Sure, Boram said. That's why human children learn to fight before they learn to walk properly. It's basic survival. You teach your children to fight? Thyrix asked. Of course, Yunwu said. How else would they survive? We start them with simple self-defense when they're about 3 years old. By the time they're teenagers, they can handle most of the dangerous stuff on Earth. What we just showed you, So Young explained, is just the kind of games we played when we were kids. Tag, hide and seek, contact sports, normal childhood activities. Childhood activities, Kex repeated in a dead voice. The knife throwing, the fighting, the incredible jumping, Taejin said. That's just what humans call staying in shape. We have to practice these skills or we get weak and soft. Weak and soft? Zephys asked. Yeah, like if we don't exercise. For a few weeks we might only be able to lift twice our body weight instead of 3 times, Boram explained. And our reflexes get slow. It's embarrassing. The Vorthak warriors were completely silent for a long moment. There's one more thing you should know, Hyunwoo said gently. We're not soldiers. Not soldiers, Thyrix whispered. No, we're just regular people on a vacation trip, So Young said. I'm a doctor. Boram is an engineer. Taejin is a pilot. Woojin works in communications. Hyunwoo is a survey specialist. We do this for fun, Woojin added. Space travel, exploring, seeing new things. It's like a hobby for us. This is what you do for fun, Nick said slowly. Well, this is pretty relaxed fun, Boram said. We haven't even started the real entertainment yet. We were thinking about having a zero-gravity martial arts tournament later, or maybe some competitive weightlifting. Competitive weightlifting, Thyrix repeated. Sure, we brought some heavy equipment for that, Taejin said excitedly. Want to see? We have weights that go up to 2,000 pounds. It's great for building core strength. 2,000 pounds, Kex whispered. Oh, and we brought some of our extreme sports gear, So Young added. Rock climbing equipment, bungee jumping stuff, some parachutes for atmospheric drops, the usual vacation gear. Extreme sports, Zephys said like the words hurt his throat. The best part is, Hyunwoo said with a big smile, we haven't even shown you what humans can do when we're actually trying. Everything you've seen so far is just casual exercise. When humans get serious about physical activity, we can do some really amazing things. Really amazing things, Nix repeated. Maybe we should show them some combat training videos, Woojin suggested. You know, from the military academies back home. They might be interested in seeing what trained human soldiers can do. Combat training, Thyrix said. Or we could demonstrate some of our survival skills, Boram said. How to survive in hostile environments, how to hunt dangerous animals, how to fight off predators with just your hands. With just your hands, Kex echoed. The Vorthak warriors were now pressed against the wall near the exit. Their weapons were forgotten in their hands. They were staring at the 5 humans like they were looking at living nightmares. But the humans looked back at them with nothing but friendly concern and genuine confusion about why their guest seemed so upset. Are you sure you're feeling okay? Hyunwoo asked. You all look like you've seen something terrible. We haven't scared you, have we? The question was asked with such innocent worry that it somehow made everything worse. These weren't monsters or killing machines. They were just regular people from a world so dangerous that their idea of relaxation would traumatize elite warriors from across the galaxy. And they had no idea how terrifying they were. Thyrix had seen enough. More than enough. His mind was struggling to process what he had learned, and his warriors were on the edge of complete panic. We must return to our ship, he said in a voice that sounded like he was barely holding himself together. Already? Hyunwoo looked disappointed. But we were just getting started. We haven't even shown you the really fun stuff yet. Really fun stuff? Zephys made a sound that was half laugh, half scream. Yeah, Boram said excitedly. We brought a full gravity combat simulator and some weapons training equipment. Oh, and the obstacle course gear. Obstacle course, Nix whispered. It's great, Tae-Jin said. Fire pits, spinning blades, crushing walls, acid pools, all the classic challenges. Really gets your blood pumping. Fire pits, Kex repeated like he was in a trance. And we were going to set up the predator hunting game later, So Young added. We brought holographic generators that can create virtual versions of Earth's most dangerous animals. Bears, tigers, giant snakes. It's like being back home. Giant snakes, Thyrix said quietly. The Vorthak warriors were now completely pressed against the wall. Several of them were trying to squeeze through the doorway at the same time. Wait, Wu Jin called out. Before you go, you should at least see our emergency survival gear. You know, the stuff we bring in case we crash on a hostile planet. Emergency survival gear, Zephys whimpered. Sure, Hyunwoo said. Thermal suits for volcano exploration, underwater breathing gear for ocean worlds, radiation suits for toxic environments, basic safety equipment, and the wildlife defense tools, Boram added helpfully. Sonic screaming devices, electrical discharge weapons, chemical deterrents. You know, in case we run into something dangerous. Something dangerous, Nick said, in a voice that had given up on sanity. Of course, if things get really bad, we also have the emergency combat protocols, Tae-Jin said casually. Hand-to-hand combat techniques for fighting large predators, weapon improvisation training, survival hunting methods. Fighting large predators, Kex whispered. With your hands, So Young added cheerfully. That was the breaking point. Warrior Kex Vorum made a sound like a dying animal and ran for the exit. 2 other warriors followed him immediately. Wait, Hyunwoo called after them. Are you feeling sick? Do you need medical attention? Medical attention, the remaining Vorthak warriors repeated together. So Young is a great doctor, Wu Jin said. She specializes in trauma surgery and emergency medicine. She can fix pretty much any injury. Trauma surgery, Zephys said weakly. I once removed a man's appendix with a dinner knife during a hiking trip, So Young said proudly. No anesthetic or anything. He was back on his feet in an hour. No anesthetic. Nix made a choking sound and ran for the exit. In an hour, 2 more warriors whispered before following her. Now only Thyrix, Zephys, and 1 other warrior remained. They were all pressed against the wall like they were trying to become part of it. Seriously, guys, you look terrible, Hyunwoo said with real concern. Maybe you should sit down for a minute. Sit down, Thyrix repeated. Here, let me get you some water, Boram said. She walked to a water dispenser and filled a cup. As she handed the cup to Thyrix, he noticed her grip. Her fingers were gripping the simple plastic cup with enough force to leave dents in it. She was holding back incredible strength just to avoid crushing a drinking cup. Thanks, Thyrix managed to say. He tried to drink the water, but his hands were shaking too much. You know what might help? Tae-Jin suggested. Some light physical activity. Gets the blood flowing, clears the mind. Light physical activity, Zephys said in a dead voice. Just some basic jumping jacks, maybe a few push-ups, So Young said. Nothing strenuous. The 3 remaining Vorthak warriors looked at each other. They had seen what humans called nothing strenuous. We really must go, Thyrix said, backing toward the door. Aw, that's too bad, Wu Jin said. We were hoping you could stay for dinner. We brought some traditional Earth food. Traditional Earth food? The last unnamed warrior asked despite himself. Yeah, we're having barbecued meat tonight, Hyunwoo said. You know, animal protein cooked over an open flame. It's a classic human meal. You cook animals? Zephys asked. Well, we hunt them first, Boram explained. Then we kill them, cut them up, and cook them. It's how we've been eating for thousands of years. You hunt and kill animals for food, Thyrix said slowly. Sure, Tae-Jin said. How else would you get meat? Though on this trip we just brought pre-killed stuff. No live hunting unless we find a planet with interesting wildlife. Interesting wildlife, the last warrior whispered, then ran for the exit. Now only Thyrix and Zephys remained. Look, Hyunwoo said gently. I can see you're upset about something. Did we do something to offend you? We really didn't mean to cause any problems. Thyrix looked at this human who was genuinely worried about hurting the feelings of alien warriors who had boarded his ship with weapons. This creature who could probably tear apart a Vorthak battlecruiser with his bare hands was concerned about being polite to his guests. No, Thyrix said quietly. You have been very kind hosts. Good, So Young said with relief. We were worried we'd scared you somehow. Scared us, Zephys repeated with a laugh that sounded like insanity. Well, if you have to go, you have to go, Boram said sadly. But you're welcome back anytime. Maybe next time you can try some of our activities with us. Try your activities, Thyrix said. Yeah, it would be fun to have some new people to play with, Wu Jin said. We could teach you some Earth games, wrestling, boxing, martial arts, the basics. The basics, Zephys whispered. Thyrix and Zephys backed out of the cargo bay and ran through the corridors of the human ship. Behind them they could hear the humans talking. That was weird. Taejin's voice carried down the hall. They seemed nice, but they acted like they'd never seen normal people before. Normal people, Thyrix whispered as he reached the airlock. They got back to their boarding craft as fast as they could and flew back to the Vorthak warship. As soon as they were aboard, Thyrix sealed the airlock and ordered the ship to move away from the human vessel. Emergency jump to hyperspace, he commanded. Maximum distance now. Sir, asked the pilot, what about the boarding mission? Mission aborted, Thyrix said. All missions involving humans are permanently aborted. His communications officer looked at him strangely. Sir, there were only 5 of them. Surely we could have… No, Thyrix said firmly. Trust me, no. He walked to his private cabin and began composing a message to be sent to every Vorthak ship in the galaxy, and then to the Galactic Council itself. The message was simple. Emergency advisory. Species designation, human, from planet Sol 3. Previously classified as Deathworld primitives. Reclassification required immediately. Recommend new classification. Do not engage under any circumstances. Reason for reclassification. The Deathworlders call torture, recreation. They call warfare, games. They call hunting and killing, normal. Childhood activities. What they consider light exercise would kill our strongest warriors. What they consider playtime would traumatize our most experienced soldiers. Additional notes. These were not soldiers, warriors, or fighters. These were civilians on a pleasure cruise. I repeat, these were regular citizens engaging in casual, recreational activities. Final recommendation: do not engage, do not observe. Do not even think about them for too long, lest you lose sleep wondering what they consider actual combat training. Personal note from Commander Thyrix Veltar. I have fought across 100 worlds and conquered 1,000 enemies. I have never been afraid of any living creature. Until today, these humans are not just from a death world. They are death worlds, walking around in human shapes. After sending the message, Thyrix sat in his chair and stared out the window at the empty space where the human ship had been. Meanwhile, aboard the human vessel, the 5 crew members were setting up equipment for their evening entertainment. That was fun, Hyunwoo said as he assembled what looked like a fighting arena in the cargo bay. Nice to meet some new people. Yeah, So Young agreed, stretching in preparation for their martial arts tournament. Though I think they might have been feeling sick. They looked really pale. Maybe they're not used to this level of gravity, Boram suggested as she attached weights to her arms and legs. Some species are pretty fragile. Well, I hope they feel better, Taejin said, warming up with some practice kicks that left dents in the metal walls. They seem like good people. Should we send them a message? Wu Jin asked as he sharpened his practice blades. You know, to make sure they got home safely. That's a great idea, Hyunwoo said. We can invite them back anytime they want to try some real Earth activities with us. Real Earth activities, he repeated happily as he began his evening workout routine. In the distance, traveling at maximum hyperspace speed away from the human ship, 12 Vorthak warriors sat in complete silence, trying to forget what they had seen. They never succeeded.